Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. I think you'll agree that one of the most frustrating things about the current federal Liberal government is that in the midst of them managing the decline of Canada, they seem blissfully unaware of all the negative consequences they're pouring out onto average Canadians. And I guess, really, why would they even notice? Basically, none of these people live like average Canadians. You have crime skyrocketing. Well, they all live in safe neighborhoods or they're in gated communities, so it doesn't bother them. The GDP per capita has been going down for like 8 quarters straight. Well, all of these people have high paying jobs and their stock portfolios are doing great because the GDP keeps going up overall. And then things like housing, they already own their own homes, so they don't really care that mass immigration and restrictive building codes are making it very difficult for young Canadians to even get their foot in the door in the housing market. So, today I want to go over some clips and information that I think really shows just how just gormless these people in the Liberal government are. And then I want to even cut over to some of their own social media posts. These people genuinely think they are the good guys. Because I will tell you, there are really not people out there who wake up in the morning thinking, I'm going to make Albertans' lives worse. Even if it's some Montreal, Ottawa elite, most of the time they think if you're in Alberta or Saskatchewan or just the West in general, you just don't get the genius of their plans. These people think they're the good guys at the same time they walk around on people's faces all day long. But before I get into it, guys, I just want to remind you, if you like my channel, make sure to drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet subscribed yet. Scroll down, hit that red subscribe button, and also leave a comment on what you think about the topic of the day. Anyways, here is Michelle Rempel-Garner, a Conservative MP from Calgary Nose Hill, asking the Liberals a question about immigration.
Liberals promised to cap foreign study permits, which also allow people to work in Canada. But new data shows that the Liberals blew their cap out of the water by handing out a whopping 500,000 foreign study permits last year, roughly the same population as all of Halifax. Why did the Liberals bring 500,000 foreign students to Canada during a massive housing shortage and while youth in Canada can't find jobs?
I can tell you. It's because some of their big donors run some of these scam universities that end up bringing in foreign students to basically just work fast food jobs while getting an education, and it allows the companies to get cheap labor. It's because of that. People like cheap labor, and both the official universities and the scam universities like foreign students because they're willing to pay a lot of money simply to be in the country.
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for that question. Those figures are inaccurate. It's misinformation. This new government is hard at work to improve our immigration system, and the introduction of Bill C-2 Tuesday was an example of that. We are taking significant steps to preserve the integrity of our system while also upholding our humanitarian commitments, because we understand a well-managed immigration system is essential to a safer, stronger Canada.
I hate answers like this. I know that dodging is typical. By the way, what's with these like weird, like, floopy like shoulder pads she's got? It's like it wants to be like an old style Victorian dress with like the floopy shoulders and like whatnot, but she did everything else about it's just not working. Sorry, that distracted me. But I know it's typical for people to dodge, but I hate when people end their statements by saying, and Canadians know, or we understand the value of doing it right and doing it good, because they're not saying like, well, we understand the value of having an immigration system that's well managed and good. It's a good one. Oh, I thought we should have a bad one. Oh, I'm mistaken. Maybe, though, we should dig into the details and define what good means. These people don't really care. I think that Carney and a lot of his backers just simply want more warm bodies in the country because it helps pump the GDP, and that's all a lot of his backers care about. They just want to pump the GDP, helps the stock market out, and it lets average people, or deprives average people of actual jobs. We're going to get to some of the job statistics later. But where she called it misinformation to say that there was around 500,000 students who entered the country last year.
Oh, nice job.
So where did that information come from?
Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
So I got those numbers from the minister's website. I went on the website and I read them. So in the middle of a housing crisis, she brought 500,000 people to Canada. These people compete with Canadians for jobs, require housing and healthcare. If her department's numbers aren't the real numbers, what are the real numbers?
Well, let's be clear too. They don't even compete for Canadians for housing and jobs, because these people are effectively willing to spend 100% of everything they have on those things. That's where it's a lopsided competition. Plus, they are usually subsidized if they're a temporary foreign worker, and so their wages are like, I believe, like $3.50 comped by the federal government, whether it be a tax break for the people hiring them or it's a direct payment from the company or the government. I don't know, but that's what I've heard directly from people who are actually thinking it's such a great system. Like, I actually have differences with Michelle Rempel Garner. Definitely, she's very much socially more on the left, but she is very good at delivering a question in Parliament, and that was an absolute doozy. So let's see what the immigration and something else minister is going to say about that.
The Honourable Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship.
Mr. Speaker, let me give the...
She's got nothing. She's got nothing. Plus, that is a fantastic freeze frame, so I'm going to save that for my own personal files. Yeah, they don't have anything. These people just assume that what they say is true, and they don't even check their own websites out, because apparently this minister, a top-level minister, this is like first tier of cabinet. This isn't like, like Minister of AI like Evan Solomon is. This is kind of like a little bit of a bonus ministry. This is like a mainstay ministry for hundreds of years. And somehow she can't read her own website. Her own people couldn't brief her.
Opposite member a lesson on immigration and on numbers and on permits and visa. There's many applications and many individuals. We recognize that to balance our immigration and to have a good country, we need temporary and we need permanent residents. Some applicants have multiple numbers, and so therefore I would suggest that we look into those numbers a little bit more in detail.
Okay, she doesn't even know the numbers. So Jerry Seinfeld's mother there apparently is going to teach Michelle Rempel Garner a lesson on immigration, even though she hasn't even read her own website. I think what she was hinting at there is maybe there's like people who have both a student application and a TFW application in. I really doubt it, because if you're going to be most of the people who just want to be students are just trying to get the job. So if you could get in through the TFW portal, you wouldn't have also filed a student application, because why would you want to pay money to get the job if you already got approved for a TFW application to just get the job? Regardless, these people are absolutely cartoon characters. They don't know what they're doing. And by the way, that was actually a brilliant freeze frame there too. So I'm also going to save that. This lady is animated in a way that makes me smile. So at the very least, she made my cold heart a little bit glad because of how ridiculous she is. Here's another thing that the Liberals are doing on immigration. This feels like what you would make up if you were trying to smear the Liberals as being like globalist nutcases. But this is a real policy. This is from my friend Kirk Lubimov here, who says, do people realize how insane and transformational to Canada the Liberals' Bill C-3 is? Bill C-3 gives citizenships to lost Canadians, except there is nothing Canadian about it, and it only requires people to have a 3-year association to Canada. There are over 4 million Canadians living abroad. Canada has been giving out citizenships like a Happy Meal. Now, many of these Canadians who couldn't care less about living in Canada can have kids abroad, and they get a parachute passport to Canada to abuse the system they don't contribute to and never have. Many of these are Muslims and African countries that have 5+ kids, and now all of them will become Canadian citizens. The Liberals are adding 10 million new citizens from third world countries who have never contributed to Canada and are now a taxpayer liability. Yes, this is an absolutely insane policy. So if you get a Canadian citizenship from having palled around in Canada for a little bit, and then you're like, this place sucks, and you move back to Algeria and you have 6 kids, That's not unrealistic. Actually, if you go to Israel, I believe it's ultra-Orthodox Jewish families, they like have like on average like 10 kids, which like blew me away. But you have 6 kids. All those kids are now Canadians because you became a Canadian citizen at one point and then you left. And now for the end of time, all of those kids are Canadian citizens. And I assume then those kids, if they then come to Canada for 3 years, and by the way, it's not even consecutive. You can be in for a month every you can just come to Canada for a month every year for enough time that you've been there for 36 straight months, not straight, but 36 months put together, and you're now a citizen who can give citizenship to your kids. It's wild that that is how it works, but that is the Liberals' dream apparently, because this is going to help our demographic decline. By the way, it's not. It's been proven, and I have to do a video on this eventually, but I was just looking at it today, that high immigration causes your own population living domestically to have fewer kids because it puts more economic stresses on. It changes the cultural fabric very quickly, makes people more uncomfortable. People who are uncomfortable are usually not going to feel like, let's have 5 kids. And so by bringing in people to make up for the decline in the birth rate means the birth rate goes down more, which means that you raise immigration more, which means the birth rate goes down more. Make it make sense, but these people think it's a great idea. Anyways, let's move on to another thing that the Liberals are doing or not doing properly, and that is the unemployment rate. Whoa, guys. The unemployment rate isn't that bad. It's only a few points higher than what it was a few years ago. I always hear these stupid excuses why the unemployment rate isn't that bad, but it's bad, guys. Here we have a Conservative MP, Melissa Lantsman, also the deputy leader from Thornhill, saying Canada's unemployment hit 7%. TD expects another 100,000 job losses by fall. I've been hearing that the US, and I know they're 10 times bigger than us, or like, 8.5 or whatever, they're looking to a job projection that in 1 month they're only going to gain 100,000 jobs, and they're thinking that's a big disappointment. Canada is going to lose 100,000 jobs by the fall. That is unforgivable. But she goes on to say, now more than 1 in 5 Canadian students are unemployed, while Liberals issued 500,000 student visas and 191,000 TFW permits last year. A terrible policy has consequences, and worse, there are no plans to fix it because Liberals can't possibly admit they destroyed it. And she's absolutely right. While 191,000 TFW permits were given out last year, although many of those students are also working, this year they have well passed by that, and then they've been giving out renewals. So not only do you have a flood of people coming in on the TFW program, the people who should be leaving it and going home are not going home, and the Liberals are like, you want another 3 years? Why not? What's another 3 years between friends trying to ruin the country? Anyways, so that's another thing. And then what I want to do is I just want to quickly talk about the Liberals' attitude. I find it frustrating how cheery and sunny these people are about the things they haven't even accomplished yet, while everything sucks.
We will work with the provinces and territories to build one Canadian economy by removing internal barriers to trade and labor mobility.
He's already said on pipelines that he will give provinces a pipeline veto. If a province doesn't want a pipeline, it's done. If a native band doesn't want a pipeline, it's done. If environmental activist groups petition against the pipeline long and hard enough, it's done. But no, guys, we want one Canadian economy. Well, he hasn't done it. And by the way, guys, broken record here, Wyatt, he was the economic advisor to Justin Trudeau, that former prime minister that we all pretend to forget about. He was the economic advisor to that simpleton for 5 years, and we never had one Canadian economy during that time. So why would we trust him to turn us into one unified Canadian economy now?
And identifying and expediting nation-building projects that will connect and transform our country. We will bring down costs for Canadians and help them get ahead, including through the middle-class tax cut and by cutting the GST for first-time home buyers, measures that are now before this House.
By the way, things that the Conservatives were doing well before the Liberals even talked about it. The Conservatives were pushing this for years, and then not right before the election, suddenly Mark Carney has a come to Ralph Klein moment where he realizes cutting taxes might actually be a good thing. And I'm not even confident he's even really going to follow through with this stuff, even if he gets rid of GST on new homes, and even if he actually does deliver his very small middle class tax cut, which is like $500 a family. He's going to. He's already been saying he's going to increase the industrial carbon tax. He's going to put in place a carbon border adjustment, which is just like a carbon tax tariff. He's going to be raising taxes when he's lowering taxes, so nothing's going to change. He is taking a bucket of water out from one side of the bathtub, and he's pouring that bucket of water back in the other side of the bathtub and pretending anything has changed. But yeah, all these people think, again, these people are so proud of themselves.
We will make housing more affordable by unleashing the power of public-private cooperation, catalyzing the...
Oh my goodness, that word again. He needs to be banned from saying the word catalyzing. Regardless of what I think about the man, I hate him. Regardless of what I think about the man, he's got to stop using the word catalyzing. It's becoming a meme.
Housing industry and creating new careers in the skilled trades. We will protect Canadian sovereignty and keep Canadians safe by strengthening the Canadian Armed Forces, securing our borders, and bolstering law enforcement. We will return overall immigration rates to sustainable levels.
We're already past 816,000 people who have entered the country this year. This year. We are only not even halfway through, and we've already had, and that was only, I believe, the first quarter. So in the first 4 months, we have brought in 816,000 people through renewals of TFWs, bringing in new TFWs, new students, and permanent residents. That is unacceptable, and they pretend they'll just say it, and then they're hoping that the people who voted for them, who like them, already own their homes, live in gated communities and whatnot. They won't really notice that things are getting worse because they're not really living in the midst of it at the moment. Obviously, that might even apply to some of you out there who do live comfortably, but you actually give a crap about the future of the country, and that's admirable. That means you're an actually, mentally turned on person who's looking around and thinking, okay, well, I'm doing fine, but what about all my neighbors, or what about my kids? There's just a certain type of person who doesn't care, whose mentality is, well, in 100 years, I'm not even going to be here anyways. It's you can't live like that because everything will be a disaster faster than you think if you start living like that. And it's not going to just have bad consequences when you're gone. It's going to have bad consequences now if everyone thinks like that.
While attracting the best talent in the world to help build our economy. We will spend less on government operations so Canadians can invest more to build Canada strong.
My goodness. Okay. Well, let's jump over to something else. Maybe that was just not a great statement. Maybe he has a better way of pitching it. Maybe here's a graphic. Maybe this will turn us around on what the Liberals' agenda is. This one says, I'll move myself so you can see it a little bit better. Our Liberal team is ready to deliver the change Canadians voted for. And then in quotes it says, our government will deliver its mandate for change with urgency and determination. Mark Carney. Okay, well, they're taking a 3-month summer vacation, so, and they're not delivering a budget till October or September. And they're already blowing out the immigration rates, and they've hired back all the same people in cabinet, and they're not cracking down on their massive corruption issues. So, I don't know how they're delivering their mandate. I guess they're doing something out there. I always hate the idea, we're going to do it, and we're going to do it good and hard, and we're going to catalyze it too. Give me something to actually work with here so I can believe that you're going to do it, but there's nothing here that says they're going to do it, because they could be doing it now, but they've scheduled themselves a 3-month vacation. They could just be starting to pass these bills ASAP on the middle class tax cut, getting rid of the GST. Do it now. Why are we waiting?
We will work with the provinces and territories to build one Canadian economy by removing internal...
Oh my goodness. Guys, I just figured out something. I always go and grab clips blindly when it comes to what the parties say. I don't like to preview them, because previewing the clips, I don't want to have 10 things I'm already prepared to say. I want to kind of react to the stuff raw. Some things I have pre-prepared. I know what I want to say on certain issues, and other things I want to kind of keep it fresh. This is my bookmarks, guys. I always bookmark things so I can find the post. The Liberals literally double posted. The last few things they've been posting are just, we're going to build one Canadian economy. And then another little text post saying, We have a mandate to deliver for Canadians. And then the next post, again, was just another clipping of him saying, we're going to build one Canadian economy. That's it. And if this does it for you, stop voting. Sorry, but I respect democracy, but you, sir, should not vote if this is something that convinces you at all. Let's see if we can find something slightly different. If I go directly to the Liberals page and I try and find something else he said that's even slightly interesting. Okay, well, here's something he said back on July 5th, or at least the party posted it on July 5th. Mark Carney addressing some audience.
We intend to govern by working with others.
Wow, that's so remarkable. I wonder if anyone else has ever thought of doing that.
By working together, we know that we can give ourselves far more than any foreign government can ever take away.
They're also better at taking away than any other foreign government is at taking away.
By working together, we can accomplish great things. We can directly address and solve the housing crisis. We can invest in projects that grow local economies, projects that connect our cities and towns to each other and to the wider world. We can build safer, stronger communities. We can make and build the best country in the world even better. So let's build big, build bold, build now, build together. Thank you very much.
It's like listening to Carney talk is like being around a guy who's like really, really baked. And he's just going off about his opinions on politics, and he's like barely there. And he's just talking about, really, you and I, we should get into government. And we should build big, build bold, build together, build stronger. And that's what we're going to say to people. And they're all going to be vibing off it because, I think everything's divisive out there, but we're going to do it together. This is like what I would expect the characters in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia to say if they were coming up with a speech to make. And it would be like a bit where they get up there and they're supposed to like say what their platform is. And you just have one of them, the characters just being like, we're going to go out there and work with others and build stronger, build bolder. And they just keep repeating the same thing because they only had like 2 notes that we're going to do things together and we're going to build blank. Oh my goodness. It's so bad, but at least it's good for content, I suppose. Not even. This is just like hypnotizingly boring. And this is all happening at the same time, like the country is genuinely falling apart. Not like I'm trying to fearmonger and say, we better do something because in 2 years, Canada's not going to exist. Canada's going to exist. But I don't want it to have to be in a state where it's going to take us another 5 years just to work on getting it back to par. Although if you do the right things, you can get things back in a flash. Just look at Javier Milei in Argentina. He took that economy from basically bankrupt to actually growing with growing on a real foundation pretty quickly. They were deep in debt, and they probably still have a lot of debt, but the economy is actually starting to develop a real private sector economy again, and not having the government suffocate it. But all of this should also reinforce guys inside of the Conservative Party. Please fire all of the people in HQ who let Mark Carney beat Pierre Poilievre. Pierre Poilievre is a very good politician. He's interesting, charismatic, he's really good at marketing ideas, and it's like some of the top people on that campaign, Jenny Byrne to name one of them, jumped into his office every single day during the campaign, says, Pierre, stop saying anything interesting, play it safe, and let's just hope the Liberals implode. Like, they're not going to implode. Mark Carney here is the most boring man alive. He is what Eeyore would be if Eeyore was a person. This man is not going to suddenly blow up on the tarmac from saying something crazy. He doesn't have the capacity to say something crazy. He has the capacity to do crazy things, but even as he's doing those crazy things, he will explain it to you like he's about to fall asleep. So, my goodness, Conservative Party, make sure that we have people who are actually focused on winning. You win with an actual bold vision. Let's slash immigration. Let's cut taxes across the board 20%. Something like that. We're going to cut 30% of regulations. We're basically just going to go on a absolute raid of just getting rid of regulations. You could actually run on something that's socially like controversial but very popular, things like parental rights, things like, banning sex selective abortion, things like that, where who's going to disagree with you on a debate stage? They're going to be like, well, this guy's a pro-life radical, and you're like, we're just trying to ban sex selective abortion. What's your favorite thing about just killing unborn girls? And they can't answer that because it's something that 90% of people think is disgusting, and most people think that's banned. That's how insane it is. People can't even imagine that that's legal in Canada, and it absolutely is. So Conservative Party, this man sucks at his job, Mark Carney, but he's also very boring. You can't just be the government in waiting, hoping that this guy, Eeyore, is going to suddenly have a giant bozo eruption and people are going to be demanding that the Conservatives replace them. That could happen. It will one day happen. But like my thesis is, the Conservative Party, and I will help them doing that in any capacity I can, the Conservative Party needs to get better at winning elections, not simply waiting for the Liberals to lose elections. Because Carney is not really ever going to lose an election. The Conservatives have to beat this guy. He is boring enough that everyone will assume he's not extreme, even if he is doing absolutely extreme things. Bill C-3 is absolutely patently insane. At the same time, he and his ridiculous ministers will talk about it like they're about to fall asleep. And they'll just talk about why we need people who are abroad, who are Canadians, to be able to pass on their citizenship to their children because it helps spread the mosaic that is Canada. They'll say something like that, and nobody will notice that they just basically said, let's just add 5 million people to the country for no reason, who don't live here, don't like Canada, don't care about Canada. Let's just do it for fun. Anyways, so that's truly it for this video. I know I go on and on, but hopefully you guys don't mind watching me slowly go insane in my videos. I will be back tomorrow, of course, with something new. I'm going to try and do a stream here within the next few days or the next week. I haven't done one in a very long time, so you'll see me do that eventually. Make sure, again, if you haven't done it yet, like this video, subscribe if you're not a subscriber, and leave a comment, even just to say hi, because it does help us in the algorithm. See you guys later.